I can't hear you if you're talking to me. I can just hear the music for some reason. Oh wait, I was hearing the video. I can't hear you for some reason.
Oh, you couldn't hear me at all.
No, now I can hear you.
I had my mic muted, and then I got all confused because I got all frazzled because I accidentally clicked the wrong button and the Captain Logan Show logo came up.
I saw that, yeah.
And, yeah, so that was a mistake. But
does that mean I'm a guest on Captain Logan Show tonight?
Yeah, maybe so. Hey, let's do some more of this. Artificial fear. No, I thought the music was just drowning out in the first place. I was like, maybe you just can't hear me.
Me too. Well, I had the stream filled up and I didn't mute it, so that was what it was.
Yeah.
I could hear the music as the stream.
Well, welcome everybody. Can you guys all do me a favor and just pretend like we know what we're doing? That would be great. Welcome back to the Batmosphere. It's episode 4. Tonight we're gonna talk about Harley Quinn, doing Joker and Harley Quinn back to back. It looks so planned and intentional. Isn't that great? We realized that there was so much Harley Quinn stuff going on right now that even though we just did Joker, now is probably also the time to do Harley Quinn. Tonight, Dan and I are going to talk a little bit about the new Harley Quinn animated series on DC Universe, which I already covered the first episode of. Dan's caught up. I'm caught up. Have you watched episode 4?
I have.
Okay, so we're both fully caught up, and we're going to chat about that a little bit. That's not our main review tonight, though. We're just going to talk about that a little bit here in a minute in the Bat Life segment. We're also going to check out the BatmanNews.com Batman Holiday Guide, Dan. We're going to find out what all cool Batman toys and paraphernalia have come out this year. There's some neat stuff there that I didn't know about, and I'm not looking through the entire list, so some of that stuff is going to be a surprise to me as well. And finally, we're going to chat about, of course, well, not finally, our definitive version of Harley Quinn. We always do the definitive version, and we're going to review tonight Mad Love. We're going to do both adaptations of Mad Love, both the comic and the episode from New Batman Adventures. Assuming Dan watched it, did you look at those, Dan?
Yeah, we didn't even talk about this. Yeah, no, we did. I watched and read.
Oh,
I'm
good.
all
Okay,
set.
Cool. Yeah.
Did all my homework.
That was the plan a couple weeks ago. I was making sure we both did that, and also be a little bit of bat chat at the end. Thanks a bunch for being here, folks. I see Anime 2019 in the comments. There's Blue Dragon 5. Mutale is there. There's David Crabtree. Anime 2019. A lot of people like, okay, so I guess it's just going to be music and Dan's talking this evening.
They can hear everybody, right? Yeah, you're coming through. We're all good. We're all good.
In my attempt at being more professional, I wound up much less so.
Yeah, I've done it where I've come back from breaks and I was muted for a good minute or so. I wasn't even I felt so confident in what I was saying that I wasn't even looking at my setup that it was all running properly, and I didn't realize I was muted during like a part where I was like,
"Do you want to know what my record is?"
Oh gosh, 5 minutes.
Half an hour.
Half an hour? No way.
Or maybe it was 20 minutes. It was a long time.
Is this why you have a co-host now at all times, so you know that something's going on?
Nope, that also happened with a co-host, but it wasn't a remote co-host.
Oh, wow.
Eric and I did a show live, and we weren't looking at comments because we weren't planning on interacting with people on that show because of the thing it was. It was this was a couple years ago, and it was one of the videos we did for the mock presidential election, and it wasn't the debate, but it was another. I think that's what it was. It was a video for that. And so we were broadcasting live, but we weren't planning on interacting with people until later. And then once we opened up the comments to finally do the interacting portion, we found out that nobody could hear us.
Oh, my goodness.
But it made me feel good because of the sheer number of people who stayed through it. Like, there were still 30 people there or something. It was crazy.
They like watching your mouths flap.
I think they had to be there for the moment when we realized it was happening. How are you doing, Dan? It's good to see you, buddy.
I'm doing well. I hope you're doing well. The holidays are coming up around the corner. Always a fun time for
I'm excited. Doing a bunch of trips. I'm doing more traveling than I think I've ever done around the holidays.
Nice. Yeah, you're heading around to where are you heading?
St. Louis area. We're visiting my mom's my wife's mom and her dad on different trips because they live in different places. And then so we're going out there, and then we're coming back here, and then we're going out to another part of St. Louis, and then we're actually taking 2 cars the second time because from St. Louis I'm going to drive all the way to Georgia to see DJ. And
Nice.
DJ and I are going to do a quick plug for this. We're going to do a special Captain Logan show New Year's Eve party. So if you're around New Year's Eve and you have nothing better to do, you can hang out with me and DJ. We're going to do a long New Year's Eve Q&A show. And I imagine, I don't know, I haven't decided when exactly we're going to start. I want to play that by ear because I'm not there yet and see what's going on with them. But
Sure.
That'll probably be a 2 or 3 hour show. And look forward to that. I'm excited. It's going to be cool doing a show with DJ live where there's no chance at technical glitches unless the whole thing just falls apart. So.
There you go. Hey, you'll be on the same coast as me during the new year. So we'll be in the same time zone if you're in Georgia.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm East Coast. Yeah, that sounds fun and mildly exhausting as well.
It's gonna be. Part of the reason I'm making that trip now is because being in St. Louis, I'll already be 3 hours closer. So it's only gonna be a 9-hour trip there, but it's going to be a 12-hour trip back. So I'm gonna have to.
Wow.
And I gotta do that one day, but it's all right. It's not as bad as when I went to get Eric a few years ago. He was in Florida, and I had to drive 20 hours one direction to get Eric.
Oh wow.
But anyway, anybody that's not familiar with us and it hasn't watched the channel a lot is not going to care about any of this. Let's get into Batman stuff. Hey, Dan, it's time for the Bat Life segment, and if you're like me, we've only had 2 weeks since the last show. Usually we put a month in between these, but I should mention this. We waited longer than we usually do because our schedules didn't line up for the last show, so we decided to go ahead and do this one earlier because next month, Dan's is really busy, and there's no way we're going to be able to meet until the very end of that month, if not February. So we thought we'd go ahead and knock out another Batmosphere so that we can get, so we can average one a month, Dan, and I'm really excited that so far we've managed to average one a month of these.
Yeah, no, I would like to do, if we can, every now and again, do 2 in a month, especially if, like, obviously this was to pick up for the previous month, but I like doing these. These are super fun.
Yeah, this show, I just got to tell you, Dan, it is, I'm still so super excited and stoked to have you on a regular show. I love talking Batman. I love talking anything with you, but I love talking Batman with you. And this show has been so much fun. I have enjoyed this so much. I don't do this with everything. I have gone back and listened to every one of these after.
Oh wow.
After we've shot them, just because I think they've turned out really well, and I have so much fun hanging out with you. So thanks for doing them, buddy.
Nice. Yeah, I enjoy them too. We've been doing this a long time coming for us to do something regular. I've been doing stuff with you since like the Arkham City, the podcast way back in the day. So I love your content and I love hanging around, and I'll always be around in some way or fashion.
I just love you, Dan.
Oh, thank you. I love you too, bud. We're having a real human moment here. Across the internet waves.
Before we get into Bat Life, which is basically just going to be a little bit of discussion of the Harley Quinn show, because if you're like me, you haven't had time to do anything the last 2 weeks that's Batman related. Really, I bought. Let's see, did I buy anything cool I want to show you guys? You know what? I have one new Batman pop, but it's not here right now because Brandon found me the Red Death pop, which I didn't even know was out, and I haven't got that in my hands yet, in my Captain Little hands yet to show you guys. So I'll do that next time. But anyway, TH1 put in a $10 super chat. Let's read that first. Should psychiatrist school use the Harley Quinn Joker relationship as, I'm sure that's what they call it too when you go to medical school.
Psychiatrist school.
Go to psychiatrist school. Should they use it? That relationship as an example of abusive relationship cycles some people get into as caution of the dangers of relationships with clients. You are great. What do you think, Dan? Could you teach it in school?
I'm focusing on the "you are great" part of that message. I love just a little tag add-on of "you are great." You're great too, TH1.
And thanks so much for the super chat.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm not. I'm no. Learned man of the what should and should not be taught.
Been to psychiatrist school.
Yeah. I don't have the qualifications quite. I mean, it seems like they kind of break down to the psychology a lot of the time, and a lot of the particularly the things we're going to be talking about later. There's definitely a hook there, but I don't know if it's like. It's a fictional relationship. Do they usually use fictional relationships for examples of? I mean, they can be good examples of things, but
comes up. Yeah, I could see in a lecture mentioning it, where, you know, these kinds of abusive situations, you know, like Harley Quinn and Joker, but like I couldn't see delving real deep into it, especially because that relationship is very different in different iterations. You kind of have to, we kind of have to decide what exactly we're talking about. I mean, like, there's the classic Batman animated series Joker Harley Quinn relationship, and sometimes it's sort of like the different degrees of how murderous the Joker is, right? Where, like, sometimes it seems really insanely, horrifically abusive, like the sense you get of it in Suicide Squad, and sometimes it can seem a little bit more playful, and sometimes you have that unreliable narrator thing, right? Where from Harley Quinn's perspective, it's very playful, and Joker is just playing hard to get, but deep down he really cares about her, but it actually is much more sadistic and a lot more like it is in Suicide Squad. And I think, you know, Mad Love touches on that, and like a lot of, you know, so there's different degrees of it.
Yes.
There's also a £5 super chat from Dave Atkins.
That sounds heavy.
£5
we just both said heavy. Yeah, that's heavy, Doc. We both went for the easiest joke possible.
I also
right
almost went to that, but decided not to because I figured you would also go there. Thoughts on Batman Begins video game? Really liked it myself and laid a solid foundation for the eventual Arkham series. Great visuals and voice acting. Yeah, I agree with all of that. That's also my assessment of that game.
Well, then you have like all the actual people from the movie doing the voice work in Batman Begins, which is really impressive. I mean, when Liam Neeson is telling you to go ring a bell or something like that, makes it different than, you know, some random knockoff Liam Neeson going, ring that bell over there, or you're going to be taken. The Batman Begins game is pretty solid. I've only ever played it in the capacity of where the character that I play Batdans and like throughout my videos and streams now and again, I'll just toss on a Batman mask and act like Batman. But I've only ever played it in the context of pretending to be that character playing the game as if the game was based on his life.
I didn't realize that. I didn't realize you only did it in that stream. That's funny.
Yeah, I've played it a couple times, and I've always been dressed up as Batman doing that. So it's a solid enough game, but yeah, the Arkham games really kind of hone the gameplay and all that stuff. It's fun enough, though.
It's one of those things that may not hold up great, but it's a really interesting piece of history, and you can see how the Arkham games probably don't happen exactly the way they do without it. Or maybe you could say that like it helps us get there faster.
They were in pretty deep development on a Dark Knight game, based on Dark Knight as well, but that got nixed midway through.
Is there any footage of that or anything? Does anybody know what that would have looked like?
I think there were. I do remember there being screen caps of Joker's character model, and it just looks like Heath Ledger video game character model thing. I haven't really seen too much on it. I don't know how long they were in development for that, but.
Do you have any idea what the history is with that and how come it got shut down?
I want to say it was a Nolan thing. It was just like a movie side where it was just. I guess maybe they thought it cheapened the
artistry of it or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Just like the video game tie-ins don't have the best, street cred. Just because most of the time they're rushed. The development cycle is only 2 years long for them typically, and you need a little bit more time for those. And you're kind of slapping, paint on a just really, crappy hamburger. Batman's just a crappy hamburger. We were talking about that last episode.
Yep, that's right.
Just
that's the food.
Depends on what kind of crappy hamburger you want.
That's right. Yeah.
So,
well, it's interesting if that's the reason though, because Begins was one of the better tie-in games, and so
that's
true. If anything was going to continue to get that kind of treatment, it would maybe be that franchise. But I could totally see it being, we're looking at this as a serious film, not so much like a comic book movie, and we're afraid that it's going to get the wrong kind of buzz if we do that. But then, none of the other standard video game, or excuse me, the standard movie merchandising stuff got shut down over that. So I don't know. I don't think it had Happy Meal toys, but
not quite. No, yeah. There was a lot of that extra stuff. X-Men Origins, and Mootali in the chat says X-Men Origins had a good tie-in game. I agree. Well, it had a good mechanic. It was fun to play. That was its big hook, was going around slashing as Wolverine.
Well, and it's famous now for being a tie-in game that's way better than the movie it's based on.
Yeah, definitely.
We don't make those very much anymore because they stopped selling well when people got smart and were like, just because I like this movie doesn't mean that the game will be of anything like the same quality.
Well, that and you have that new Avengers game that's out right now, and the biggest criticism against that game is that the Avengers don't look like the Avenger. They look like knockoff Avengers of the movie versions, and everybody's like, they want it to be the movie tie-in version and not the adaptation, kind of like that Spider-Man game was, the more recent.
From where I'm sitting, I would want it to either be based on the movies if they're going to have those costumes or not have those costumes.
Yeah. They're like slightly differently designed costumes. It's like
not differently enough, and clearly characterization-wise, they're going full tilt MCU, but it's not an MCU game. And the synergy thing, this is not about Batman, but the synergy thing is getting really irritating to me. Where we're trying to make everything uniform, and we want we want Marvel everything to feel like the movies because that's what's popular. And some of that stuff feels too watered down, and it's kind of sad that that's where we're at with some of that. Where it's like, either give me an Avengers movie game or give me a comic book game, and they're kind of trying to mix and match. But it's also probably one of those things where they would love to have their own like game universe, and so don't make it look exactly like the movies if that's what you're doing.
Sure.
That's not actually out yet, though, right?
Oh no, that's still being developed. I think it's out next year.
Mutali says, once again, Cap tricked us with the title. Yeah, well, this is the only time Dan and I talk, so it's bound to happen.
We got around to video game adaptations. It was a natural deviation.
It was a natural downward spiral, so that makes it okay. Okay, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the Harley Quinn show on DC Universe. I did how we felt about it on the first episode, and was a little put off by it. It's just not my thing as far as the vulgarity of it and the violence of it and all of that. It is doing, moving forward so far, exactly what I predicted it would do and what I was hoping it would do, which is it is. No episode after that first episode is nearly as in your face about the gratuitous violence and the grossness of it. That stuff is all still there, but it is leaning much more heavily after that first episode, which I was hoping was just saying, this is the kind of show we are. If you can't handle what's in this, you won't want to continue watching.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's leaned a lot more on clever comedy, I think. I have appreciated it a great deal more since that pilot. And Dan, one of the things I'm enjoying most about it is all the continuity stuff, just the really subtle interconnectivity of that show, where like every episode, of course, is a standalone thing, but there is kind of an ongoing story happening, and it's a sitcom, right? It's Friends. It's like we remember what happened last episode, but every episode stands on its own, but we keep paying off stuff that I didn't know was a setup because I'm not thinking about it as an ongoing narrative. And it's kind of fantastic. I'm really impressed with it overall.
Yeah, I'm exactly with you, where it was the first minute of it, I was like, it seems like it's trying too hard at first. Like leading into the first minute of it, because they were swearing a bunch. It got really ultra violent really quickly. And I that stuff doesn't really off-put me too much, but like it's one of the reasons why I can't get into Titans is the language. Like it seems like they're trying too hard to be super angsty and whatever.
Cool we are.
Yeah, and like I can't really get into that.
We are, yeah.
But with Harley Quinn, like that show, it kind of becomes wallpaper, and it just blends in. It becomes like you kind of stop noticing it, but at first it was jarring. But once you lock into it, it really does. It has such a great sense of humor and playfulness with all the different villains. Scarecrow's just like some posh British dude. You have
and Bane is amazing.
Bane is just
wonderful.
He is so sensitive, and if anybody does anything to upset him, he's just like, I'm gonna get back at you. Like the whole like. He lost at trivia night, so and the question that he lost had something to do with Gotham Stadium. So he's like, I'm gonna blow up Gotham Stadium. He's just a whiny little brat kid kind of deal, but he is so funny.
Every time he was on screen, he made me laugh. And Brandon described him as emasculated Bane.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. Yeah, he's just he's just kind of the punching bag of the group. And yeah, he just sulks about it.
I'm gonna blow up this party.
I'm gonna blow up this bar mitzvah. Yeah. Oh gosh, and Mrs. Cobblepot in that second episode is probably my favorite. What Mrs. Cobblepot, like when they come into the party, because the whole thing is Joker tricks Harley to come to the party because she thinks it's some big important thing that will get her in good with the League, and it's really Penguin's son's bar mitzvah, and she's in there swearing and being, whatever she's doing, and then Mrs. Cobblepot comes over and is like, "Excuse me, I know we're all super villains. Come on, we put a little bit of sugar on the whatever," and it's, oh gosh, so funny. The voice acting in that show, you got Alan Tudyk, Kelly Kuoko from Big Bang Theory. What is that? Alan Tudyk plays a couple different characters. He does the Joker and Clayface, who I think Clayface is so good too. The bartender wannabe actor who just wants everybody's.
It's funny because it looks like he's going to be main supporting cast, and that puts Tudyk in two roles of main supporting cast. Because so far Joker's been in every episode, I think.
Yeah. No, it's pretty handy, and it's crazy. The guest cast as well. Jason Alexander, I think, was just in that last episode, 4th episode, right?
Oh, who did he play? I didn't even realize that.
Unless I'm crazy and thinking of a different show, because I've been watching so many cartoons recently. We've been watching Gravity Falls on Disney Plus.
Who did he voice though?
I'm trying to remember if I'm remembering correctly. Anybody know?
I don't know right away.
Anyway.
But yeah,
it's really great.
It's a surprisingly smart show. I don't know. I think it's real confident. I think it knows exactly what it wants to be, and it doesn't care. It's one of those shows that's fun because it doesn't care if you're watching. It's one of those things that feels like it's being made as much for the people that are writing it, but not in a super self-indulgent way. And it's not scared of anything, man. It's satirizing everything. It's making fun of a lot of social political stuff. So like it's making fun of political correctness, but it's not a politically correct show. But it's not mean-spirited about it either. So it's not like it's not like we're gonna be a racist and sexist show, but it's making fun of people who go too far with that stuff too. And I don't know. It's weirdly kind of for everybody and not. You know what I mean? Like I think it's for everybody of any political spectrum, but it's certainly not going to be for everyone as far as its comedic sensibilities. And yet, I feel like I'm precisely the antithesis of the audience it's after in some ways. But I'm enjoying it too. I'm quite on board with it now. And if it can, I don't know if it can win me over. Like, I also wonder just how desensitized I've gotten, right? Like, at this point, I wonder if I have just been ruined and if like Captain Logan from 10 years ago would not have watched past 10 minutes of this show. Because I compared it in the first episode to El Super Beasto, and I was like, oh god, I don't want to watch El Super Beasto every week. And it's not that. It's not that because it's not, like I said, I don't think it's ultimately mean-spirited about it.
Yeah. It's just these are crazy people, and this is their weird lives together.
Yeah, and it doesn't want to be taken too seriously, but it also wants to, but it also thinks about things a little bit. It is about stuff. It's kind of nice. But the actual world it's in is just so insanely over the top. You can't take it too seriously. I love that it's a real honest to God superhero parody. We don't have enough good superhero parodies right now.
Oh yeah, Commissioner Gordon just standing on top of GCPD flipping the bat signal on and off because he's bored. And just him being.
We haven't had any more of him since the first episode. I thought he was the funniest thing in the first episode.
He did. I can't remember which one that wasn't the same episode where he was flipping the bat signal on and off.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Was it the same episode?
Yep,
okay.
Same
episode. He was so great. He's played by Christopher Maloney as well. He's the general dude from Man of Steel and SVU and all that stuff. I saw him at an airport once.
Cool.
I know. He was on the phone, or he was just on the phone.
Oh my god, that guy looks like he might know who I am. I better get on the phone.
He's one of my favorites. I love Christopher Maloney. He's really hilarious in some stuff. He's usually like random. He does a lot of random voices and also kind of side characters in movies that I've always found really entertaining whenever he pops up.
So the second episode was the bar mitzvah, which was funny and also I think was important for world building in this topsy-turvy, bizarre, silly DC universe. Because like I think it was really smart to throw us a bunch of villains right away, just kind of get a sense of what the world is like, but also what the society of villains are like. I should also mention that one of the things that's got me latched onto the show now is the main way in which it's like The Tick, because it's all about the mundanity of life.
Mm-hmm.
And I always love stuff like that. It gets really funny when you have people that are like really theatrical and trying to be big bombastic characters that want everybody to love them and pay attention to them, and then you're not actually watching the parts where they go and do that as much as you're watching them like trying to pay off their credit card and stuff like that. And like that can get really, really funny. But yeah, so the second episode is the bar mitzvah, and then the third one is Maxie Zeus. I couldn't limit it Maxie Zeus.
I loved that it was Maxie Zeus. Who was the voice of Maxie Zeus too? It was a really good voice actor on top of that.
I should have looked up voices. I did not do that.
Yeah, well, I was watching it. I was just kind of peeping the cast just because I'm so into voice actors and stuff. But we were talking about Maxie Zeus like last week.
Yeah, I know.
I want to say just because I think he's such a funny character, and that he was in the very next episode so good. Behind the voice actor of Maxie Zeus. Yeah, that episode was Will Sasso does Maxie Zeus, the dude from Mad TV.
Okay.
Bald guy.
It's been too long since I've seen any of Mad TV.
I know, right? Yeah, I remember you teasing me about like because when you were talking about the things connecting throughout multiple episodes that you really liked, that return thing from the end of the first episode where she like Harley finally gets what she wanted all along.
It's so good.
Yeah.
At the end of 3, it's so funny.
Yeah.
Because and Poison Ivy, I love Poison Ivy as the voice of reason. It's great. She's constantly, and I love that running gag they have where like every time Harley is about to has a really bad idea, Poison Ivy can always tell. She's like, no, don't do that. I don't know how deadpan she is. You're like, no, that's a bad idea. Don't do that. But you get the sense because you're kind of looking at things more. I think sometimes through Poison Ivy's lens, because she's the voice of reason and kind of makes more sense than Harley Quinn does, that you're like, well, yeah, Poison Ivy's got to be right. Harley Quinn can't possibly manage the goals she's after, and then she just does it. She wants to I forget what exactly her plan is. She wants a highway named after her.
Yes. Yeah, her plan was to like strap the mayor and launch him into space or something like that to a rocket.
But she has to set her sights a little bit lower than that.
Yeah. And I do like seeing that side of just everything. Seeing the side of Joker hanging out in his lair and just talking with his henchmen or trying to figure out the Wi-Fi password so he could get hooked up on the TV and. Kind of like what you were saying, like the minutia
Wi-Fi password thing in that last episode was really funny, and they just kept going on about it. That was great.
And that's what I really appreciate the voice acting because the performances are really good with the dialogue that's given, but the dialogue is just so funny.
It's sharp, yeah, and everybody gets it. And I also think you're getting kind of different. You're getting slightly different modes in this show. Like every episode, I haven't looked at the writing credits on this. That 4th episode had a bit of a different pacing of the comedy than 3, and it's just as funny as the rest of it. Like it's still that same show, but like they're letting different writers do what they do best when they come in and write on the show. And I appreciate that kind of risk taking where there's kind of a house style, but there's kind of not. You know what I mean? If you had somebody like Ben Edlund come in and write on this show, you'd be able to tell it was Ben Edlund because they would let him do his thing, and I really appreciate that. It doesn't feel like this feels like just raw creativity. Nobody has their hands tied behind their back. They can do anything they want to, and that has
literally anything.
Like you said with Titans, that has been a detriment on DC Universe, where because there are no reins and you can do whatever you want to, everything's like completely unabashed and do whatever you want to. Sometimes, especially with I only watched that pilot. I couldn't deal with it. But,
yeah, I've not watched more than 20 minutes of that first episode.
I mean, Doom Patrol is better, and I'm not watching very much of that. But like sometimes what can happen when you don't rein things in at all is it just completely goes off the rails, and it stops being about storytelling, and it's just shock factor, right? And this does have a shock factor component to it, but like we said, it's really smart that after that first episode, they're not as concerned with that.
Yeah. It's just riding off of solid characters, a solid premise. I really feel like it just feels like a really great idea for a cartoon show. And it's so well animated too. Like it's really solidly animated.
The thing is, this could get away with being lazier in its animation, and it's not. It's crisp. Yeah. It's clean. The character models are cool. I think it's walking a really good line between action, cartoon show, and sitcom. Like it's mostly a sitcom, but when they do action, boy, they do action. And because it's animated, like it's playing with the form right. Like they're using the animated form to its full extent, so they can put anything they want on screen because you don't have to worry about a budget in the same way you do with live action, but because it's also a sitcom, you've got the just kind of sitting around sitting on a couch kinds of scenes. But then in that scene, King Shark can walk in, and and you don't have to light it dark just because it's CG, right?
Yeah. No, I'm very surprised to how into this show I am. After the first episode, I was like, okay, I'm in. I like this show a lot. Couldn't wait to watch more. I watched the first 2 episodes, and then I rewatched them with my fiance because I was like, I think you'll actually like this show. Like, she's not super into Batman stuff. Like she has
Brandon,
a passing interest.
And I keep having to explain Brandon stuff. Like, this is Brandon's introduction to a lot of Batman stuff, which is so weird. Such a weird way to introduce a person to a thing. But like, he didn't know who Maxie Zeus was. He didn't know about Clayface. Like, he's not a Batman guy. He doesn't know this stuff. And just things I take for granted. I'm like, oh, you've never heard of Clayface. So some of the stuff that they're riffing on, he's not even initially familiar with. So that also speaks to how the comedy works on different levels for different audiences. Because I don't think you actually have to know DC to appreciate a lot of what's in this show. But it certainly helps. It gives you those layers. So I think a lot of the cleverness in the show is created by the references. So like that take on Clayface is funnier if you're familiar with that character as a thespian. If you don't know he's a thespian, then it's just a silly clay guy who is a thespian. If you know who Maxie Zeus is, that's a lot funnier. Than if you don't. But I don't think you have to. And like I've explained a few things to Brandon here and there just because he's asked. But like I think he would watch the show without me and enjoy it just as much. The Kite Man thing is really amusing. Kite Man has appeared in 3 of the 4 episodes, and he's kind of just a gag now. He's a reference to the second episode now every time he shows up.
Yeah.
Which is really funny. It seems like they are desperate to have a bunch of episodes under their belt by episode 4. You know what I mean? Where it's like we want to constantly go back and poke fun at ourselves or just reference things that you may have forgotten about. And I don't mean it's like too self-referential. I just mean that it likes to keep paying stuff off. And it's got a nice tight continuity. But man, the Kite Man thing is amusing. I really appreciate that it's not afraid to go to comic book stuff because it might lose pieces of the audience. Because like I said, he's funny by himself. You don't have to know about Tom King. But if you know about Tom King, that's a lot funnier.
Oh yeah, I don't know anything about Kite Man, and him opening up his kite and knocking a child into a punch bowl is hilarious.
So the hell yeah thing is making fun of Tom King's Batman because Kite Man Tom King brought him back and made him a major character in that, and he's the butt of jokes because he's a D-list villain, but he's Eric describes him as kind of the new big Batman D-list villain that we're constantly making fun of and throwing under the bus and shows up in everything. It's like every few years we pick one and we kind of run with him for a while. And Kite Man's the one we're doing now. It was Firefly at one point. Was it Firefly or was it somebody else? One of those fire themed villains. One of the many C-list fire themed villains from Batman. And now it's Kite Man. And Tom King employs repetition a lot in his writing, and some people like it, some people don't. And his Catwoman will not stop saying meow. Just every couple pages, she says meow for no good reason. And Kite Man does the same thing. He doesn't say meow, but his catchphrase is hell yeah, and he just keeps saying hell yeah all the time.
Hell yeah.
And so when we see him in this, he says hell yeah, and I just lost it. One of the things that's fun about watching this with Brandon, because he and I are watching through the show together, is I will react to things and will just lose my mind, and Brandon has no idea what I'm laughing at because he's not familiar with Batman stuff.
That's pretty good. Yeah, I didn't know that was already a catchphrase of his in the comics.
Yeah, Blue Dragonfly, was it Killer Moth? It was either Firefly or Killer Moth. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I love Calendar Man not remembering his son's birthday.
Yeah, I know, all that stuff is just really clever.
I think Calendar Man also Alan Tudyk. He did the voice, but he's only in it very briefly the first episode. But yeah, Alan Tudyk doing so many voices. It's a very good show. I highly recommend it. And I didn't think I'd be in that spot before I watched it.
Somebody said in the comments earlier, what are the odds that this ends up being better than Birds of Prey, than the Harley Quinn movie? And yeah, I mean that's certainly possible.
Yeah.
I want to think
it's a really great version of Harley.
Uncomparable thing. Well, we haven't even really talked about her character very much, but I like how she's characterized in this a lot. She's wonderfully. For me, I mean, some people have said that voice is annoying. I like the voice fine. And I mean, I end up comparing it to the like lowest thing you can compare it to, because the Batman Harley Quinn movie had the worst Harley Quinn voice, and as soon as she came in and didn't have a Brooklyn accent, I was very excited. And people were really used to the Brooklyn accent, and I just didn't need that, and I kind of like that we've gotten away from it personally, but I think she's wonderfully entertaining. I think she's not irritating, and I think there's actually some room for real character growth there. Surprisingly, this is one of those shows where we get to look at things from the morality or lack thereof of other characters and kind of throw our own morality away. And so there's this. I don't want to say a code, but there's just this kind of different way of looking at things in this villain society that seems to exist in this world. And so she ends up being as sympathetic as she can be within that lens. And I don't know. I very often don't like Harley Quinn. I kind of like her in the show. Yeah.
That's why I'm so surprised. Is like I wouldn't have picked a Harley Quinn led show as something I would have been super into, but it's one of my things that I'm really excited to see week to week. I mean, Mandalorian's coming around to an end, and there aren't too many weekly things that I have to look forward to.
Yeah, same way. Watchmen's done too.
I gotta just binge all that. I haven't seen an episode of Watchmen yet. I gotta
make sure you're not doing the dishes or walking your dog when you watch that show. It requires your full attention.
Yeah.
Don't do the dishes.
Okay, no dish doing. I won't do the dishes until I've watched the entire show. It might be a little bit, but we can go without dishes for a while. We'll just eat off the floor.
I appreciate that Harley Quinn is an actual real psychiatrist. I think the take in this is really kind of cool, where it's almost, I said this in How We Felt About, but it's almost a multiple personality thing, where there's ditzy crazy Harley Quinn, and then there's actual focused psychiatrist Dr. Harley Quinn, and I'm hoping we see more of that, because I think there could be a really cool, interesting internal conflict there. I also think the show could in all of its nutso-ness and hilarity get kind of poignant and do some serious stuff here and there. I'm kind of expecting some of that, particularly because of, again, how straight Poison Ivy is kind of played, even though she is an eco-terrorist. I love that line when she's like, I identify as an eco-terrorist.
Yeah. Not a super villain or whatever. And you have that great relationship between those two, where it's like Harley is, or not Harley, but Ivy is like the voice of reason in this relationship, and she's looking out for Harley as best she can to help her kind of set out on her new independence, but actually keep her in line without falling back to Joker, which is kind of what she always does. That first episode's really good, and I feel like the first episode kind of hits those serious moments. Like I got goosebumps during that whole, till death do us part thing. Yeah. And her memory of like getting married to the Joker. That
You're
whole
right.
sequence where she goes into the acid.
That's just solid writing, and I had forgotten about that because it's gotten so silly since then. But
Yeah.
I'm assuming that pilot is a blueprint for what the show is, and I'm assuming that
Yeah.
everything the show can be is represented in that pilot.
Yeah, for sure. I
Uh,
concur.
I think it has it has the potential. I mean, I'm going to go this far at this point, and I almost gave this a really negative, the first episode, a really negative review on my own until I showed it to Brandon and we decided to talk about it together. Because the second viewing, I was like, oh wait, no, there's something here. This is better than I'm giving it credit for. It could go down in history ultimately as a classic cartoon show. I think it absolutely has that potential.
Yeah. And people's faces melt off.
Well, yeah, you gotta have that. It's rough. It is certainly brutal.
That's the thing that puts Liz off a little bit, my fiance, just because like
Just how brutal it gets.
Just the ultra violence, like
Yeah.
people's arms getting snapped in half or legs getting snapped, and just like, okay, well, that we just sat down to eat when we first started watching it, and instantly the first episode gets down to.
Yeah, I try not to have dinner when I'm watching this show.
Yeah. I don't mind it so much, but I guess some people do.
Well, why don't we go ahead and move on now to unless you had anything else you want to talk about with that show.
I'm gonna blow up this Batmosphere.
There's a bunch of other characters and stuff we could have chatted about, but we might check back in with this down the road. I kind of want to do a spoiler cast when the whole season is over. I feel like I've already talked too much about this show, but
let's
I really like
do
it. Let's move on now, Dan, to the Bat News segment, and I want to look at the Batman News .com holiday gift guide. Dan, are you ready?
Ooh, I'm excited.
Ready to find out what stuff is out that's going to burn holes in your wallet, sir?
I haven't seen this. I haven't seen this yet, so this is news to me.
I just found out about this today, and I thought it might be a fun thing to take a look at on the show. So let's just go through this list and find out what stuff is out according to BatmanNews.com. Here we go. So single issue comics, because those exist. You can read comics about
Buy
Batman.
comics.
Batman Beyond the Complete Series, $60.99. Now you don't have this box set, but you have this series, right?
I have the animated one. Or like the DVD one.
I have the animated. I have animated Batman Beyond. I didn't buy the live action series because I thought it was kind of crap. CW should have made that show. But
I just have this one, and then I have the DVDs.
I have the deluxe DVD box set, which is gorgeous and has a really cool art book, and I like a lot. This actually does not look as impressive as that to me. So I'm probably not going to get this unless for some reason at some point I decided I just had to have it on Blu-ray, but.
Sure.
I don't really have that with much stuff, but that's a good price.
Do we know if those remastered episodes are going to be on DC Universe?
They are. They're coming in January. Yeah.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
Yeah. What's really silly though is that that and Wonder Woman Bloodlines, which I don't know why that didn't drop day one like all the other DC Direct animated movies have, but that's coming up also. And it's the only movie next month that's coming on DC Universe. And then they had a whole list of like 10 or 12 that they're dropping next month.
Oh, dang.
And I don't know why they're doing that. If they want to keep pretending like they're a streaming service, they should probably have stuff to stream. I still love DC Universe because of the comics and some of the original programming I'm actually enjoying now. But it looks like they're going to get to a point where they're a streaming service for 4 original shows, some of which have already been canceled, and comics, and that's going to be it. And maybe TV shows. Because I don't think they've dropped any of their TV shows, but they're dropping movies. They're dropping all the Superman movies, I think.
Do you not think they're going to roll this DC Universe into HBO Max? Or
I do think that, but I don't know if dropping a bunch of movies has anything to do with Max. Because when is that coming out? I
have no idea. But
it's not quite yet, right?
Yeah. No, it's not around yet.
Warner's has been making a huge deal out of, no, don't worry, DC Universe isn't going away. And of course, I don't trust that. I think it will eventually be rolled in, but I don't think it'll be rolled in day one, or they wouldn't be saying that, is my assumption. And my big thing is I just hope they don't lose the comics. I hope at the very least they keep DC Universe around for comics, or they create another streaming or another service for that to compete with Marvel Unlimited. And if they do that, I'll happily, pay for that instead. But
they'll probably keep DC Universe and just do a like a discounted bundle or something like that. Like get HBO Max and DC Universe together for a cheaper price or something. Who knows?
yeah, I don't know. Well, what's suspicious is that the Green Lantern show that they announced is going to be HBO Max and isn't airing on DC Universe, and I don't know why DC Universe would continue existing and have original programming if that's going to be over there, unless the point of that, well, this doesn't make any sense. I almost said unless the idea with that Green Lantern show is that it's actually not going to be dark and gritty and kids can watch it, but then HBO Max has HBO in the title, and it's going to have some HBO stuff, so clearly that's not a service that's going to be meant specifically for families. Like, maybe there can be some family programming on it, but there also is some of that, at least in old stuff that DC Universe has on DC Universe. So I don't know why that would be the distinction. So if DC Universe sticks around, why isn't that on DC Universe? That's my question. We also know that Doom Patrol is going to be on both.
Oh, weird. I don't know.
That whole thing is very confusing. Yeah.
Yes, it really is. That is very confusing. One source said May 2020 for HBO Max, says HB Haga.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll find out then if it gets immediately rolled in, but it won't, because why would Doom Patrol be mentioned on both if it was rolled in right away? Look at this goofy sweater.
Look at this goofy sweater.
Looks like sort of a utility belt. That's kind of.
I would love that sweater. That's amazing. That's way too expensive though. $54.
Getting ideas for Dan's news for eventual gifts. DC Comics. Vinnie Mates Batman Who Laughs. That's fun. But now I want a minifig of that.
Yeah. Look at him. He's laughing. He's happy.
DC superheroes. Who is who?
Ooh.
I have some of these board books. For my
$10 more my price point.
Factory Entertainment Kuzos. I don't know what that is. What is that?
That looks pretty cool though. The little batarang and stuff.
Yeah. Is it just like bric-a-brac?
I don't know.
That's pretty cool looking. Teen Titans Go versus Teen Titans. I have bought this. I've not watched it yet. Mostly because I have never watched a whole episode of the Teen Titans show, and I know I'm not going to appreciate any of that side of it.
Yeah.
I meant to go ahead and watch it and review it, but then I was like, I may still do that, but I was like, I'm the last person on earth qualified to review this movie, and Teen Titans fans are not happy about it.
Oh, really? It was this pre or post Teen Titans Go to the Movies?
Yeah, this is post. So Teen Titans Go to the Movies.
Oh, this came out more recent.
It did. This came out just a couple months ago. Teen Titans Go to the Movies had a stinger at the end after the credits that brought back Teen Titans from the TV show, and a lot of Teen Titans fans were hoping that meant that they were going to come back and do an original Teen Titans movie or bring the TV show back, and apparently all it was doing was setting up this crossover thing, and a lot of Teen Titans fans hate Teen Titans Go and miss the more serious show and are very angry that this is what we got. And so I don't know if it's any good, I don't know if it's fun, but I know that fans are not happy about it.
I've never watched a second of the Teen Titans things. That's why I'm like less interested in checking out Titans at any point, just because I've never had any sort of investment in that group.
Here's the buckled down seatbelt, belt, and keychain.
That looks so cool. I like that. I'd wear that.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the seatbelt things. For whatever reason.
Like I've never worn one, but like it looks cool.
You would. Somebody gave you one.
Yeah, I totally would.
There's the Funkoverse strategy game. I have not heard anything about these. I don't know if these are any good at all. I'm not happy with the way they made these, although I don't think it practically would make sense to do what I wanted from this. The Funko games, so they've got a DC one, there's a Harry Potter one, there's a couple of others. I think they mix and match. I think you can play with them together, but I'm not totally sure about that. What's irritating is you have to buy... So you buy these games, and they come with mini Funko figures, and wouldn't it be cool if you had a board game that used the Funko characters or the Funko figures that you had already? Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah.
But I guess we gotta make them smaller. No, because they're small.
That's weird.
They're like a lot smaller than pop figures.
I gotcha. Weird.
Black and white statues.
Oh yeah.
Those have always been popular.
Always nice.
There aren't a whole lot of these that I feel like I would go out of my way to buy, but there's some cool ones.
I had my friend got me the zombie one, but it like ended up getting messed up at some point. I think I lost a Batman ear at some point.
I just remember the new Batman thing I wanted to show you guys. But I'm gonna have to.
Go for it.
I'm gonna have to run across the bunker to get it. Give me just a second. I'll be right back.
I get to dance while Cap's going to grab something. So how's everybody in the chat doing? I've been seeing y'all. Cap does know a lot of Dans. I am one of the many Dans that is on this channel. Lots and lots of Dans. I saw Dan Torrey the other day on the Star Wars spoiler thing. And that's why Cap is the worst ever.
I'm done.
He's packed. Shh. Everybody. We were talking about the Dan news. Oh my goodness.
So this is an animated Batman resin statue, which I didn't know about.
Awesome.
I've not seen one of these.
Is this Mondo?
And I was really excited about it. I'd have to go look at the box, and I don't have it right close.
I got you. I know they had one not too long ago, but it looks kind of like it.
I thought this was just it's DC Direct. It's just a DC Direct.
DC Direct. Oh, nice.
Yeah,
that's
mine
really cool.
is 170 of 2300.
Oh wow.
And it's pretty.
Super
I'm very excited about it. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
It's like a 10-inch statue.
Yeah, keep them on your desk. Always looking out.
Okay, let's see what else is on this holiday guide. What are these things?
Bobbleheads?
The Revos, Aquaman, and Shazam.
I like Aquaman.
Yeah.
He looks scary.
They look like tops. They look like I should be spinning them.
They do, yeah. They have the rounded bottoms.
So, Dan, this next thing I did not know existed, and I have to have it. I have to have it. Are you ready? The voice-activated Batmobile portable Bluetooth speaker.
Oh my gosh! Do you take the Batmobile off that deck, or is the deck the speaker?
I'm assuming the deck is the speaker.
So you just have that in your apartment sort of deal. That looks really neat.
The back opens up, so maybe that's where the batteries go, or not the batteries. Maybe that's where you plug it in to charge it. Yeah. It's cool. Oh, of course it's GameStop exclusive. Great. In order to get that, I have to give GameStop money.
That's weird. My sister had a really old-timey looking radio. I just went to her place the other day for Friendsmas. And she has it looks like an super old-timey tube radio, but it's a Bluetooth speaker. And you just hook your phone up on the Bluetooth thing. And I was like, oh, that's so neat. So that's super cool. That'd be really neat to have amongst other Batman things and just connect to it.
So this apparently you can connect to your Google Home or Alexa, and instead of saying, hey, Google or whatever, you say, hey, Batmobile.
Hey, Batmobile?
I don't think I would do that, but it's fun that you can, I guess. Mezco 1, Collective Batman Sovereign Knight. What are those? Oh,
yeah. Is that Apocalypse? Who is that?
That's Darkseid.
Darkseid, that's Apocalypse. Who that is.
Apocalypse is an X-Men villain.
Yeah, you're right. I always used to get them mixed up when I was a kid.
My favorite X-Men movie is X-Men Darkseid.
Darkseid, yeah.
$180. But what are they?
They're just like little toys.
Let's see. They're big. Oh, they're bigger than they look. So one
made of
1/12 scale monster made of polystone. Also features light-up eyes, swappable faceplates, and an old-school rectangular mother box. Oh, good, an old-school mother box. Those newfangled mother boxes.
I like it.
Yeah, that's great. That's a Batman. Oh, that guy. Look,
these are the varying eBay things.
We got hats from old Batman movies. Batman Forever and Batman and Robin baseball caps. Because you can't watch a Warner Brothers movie without a Warner Brothers ball cap.
Yeah.
There's the Batman Forever drinking glasses. Why are we just bringing back old things?
Oh, I thought that I was just looking at the pie and the brownies, not the cups.
Yeah, no, those are the old McDonald's glasses. I have those.
Yeah, I remember you showing them to me. I haven't seen those since the 90s.
Diamond Select Nightwing PVC diorama. I assumed everything in this list would be new stuff. Why are these glasses here? Did they
This is eBay. These are eBay things.
Oh, these are just eBay things? Okay.
Yeah, they were saying these are eBay things. Okay. So these are things that people are selling for collectibles.
There's a Lego Batmobile. Definitive
which we know you have.
Knight. I don't have. Yeah, I mean, I have the new '89 one. This is.
You have the big one.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I should get this book though. That just
looks nice.
Yeah. There's the Rogues Gallery board game. I've not looked at reviews of that yet, so I don't know if I'm gonna get it, but I'm interested in that certainly. DC Women of Action, DC Cover Girls Huntress. That's the best Huntress suit. It's great. Well, that's the best Bertinelli Huntress suit. I still prefer the original Earth 2 Huntress. Batman deck building
Yeah,
game.
same here.
Do you even know what I'm talking about?
No.
Oh, I'll have to show you that suit at some point. Let's see. DC Designer Series, cool. Batman by Frank Miller. I don't like the Frank Miller design enough to collect it. I never
like the design. The colors are so, like, the blue is so blue.
it's just too blue.
It's maybe the colors are throwing me off on that. Like, if it was a different kind of color scheme, I would probably like it better. But I mean, it's probably straight out of the comic book.
It is, yeah. But it just doesn't. That must be the thing. It just doesn't translate as well. Ooh, yeah. The metal collection is cool. That I would certainly consider if I had $80 to $150 each to just drop on these. No, those are fun. So now we're just looking at statues, and there we go. That's the whole article. There's some cool stuff in there. I think the thing for me that I eventually am just absolutely gonna have to get is that Bluetooth speaker.
Seems really neat. And that was only like $80, right? Something like that.
Yeah. There's just not enough 89 Batmobiles in my life.
Yeah.
I gotta have more, Dan.
It's gorgeous.
Dan, do you have any other Batman news you want to talk about?
Well, since we're talking Harley Quinn, the Birds of Prey movie was officially rated R for rated R things, including violence.
It would be, right?
Assuming. Yeah, they had Margot had been talking about it. Miss Robbie, how do you pronounce her name? Margot Robbie was talking about how, like, they were looking to kind of be not so constrained when it came to rating. And it always seems to be the thing, like the ebb and flow of the industry, where the industry, after a really big rated R hit, all of a sudden goes, hey, we can make things rated R again. It's less of a gamble. And then a year goes by and they just constrict back to being like, we can't do a rated R movie. It's too much of a risk. And then another one happens and it's like, oh, we can do it again, but not for too long. Okay, it's going back, and then we're not going to. It's too much of a risk. Like, it happened. Like, Logan happened. It's not the first time that this is like this cycle just keeps repeating itself. But yeah, DC seems pretty confident to be like, okay, it's proven that the Joker can make $1 billion.
Joker, yeah.
Let's do it. But I'm glad. I mean, we'll see how it goes. If it works for the thing that it is, like, then absolutely fine. It's that Titans Harley Quinn thing, where it's like, depends on what you do with that edge, whether it's going to work or not.
If you're actually going to tell a story, you're just leaning on that one thing. Well, we can swear. That's cool, right?
Yeah.
That's not a stand-in for creativity, okay?
Exactly.
I'm going to assume that Harley Quinn was made as a rated R movie, and they made the assumption while they were making it that
they could
Warner's would not be crazy enough to try to force it into a PG-13 package. I also think it's possible Suicide Squad was made that way as well.
Oh, yeah. I could see that.
For sure it must have been made that way. Yeah.
Yeah. With
and
David Ayer.
Snyder wasn't worried about making BVS a rated R movie, knowing it wouldn't be a rated R movie. So I don't really understand that. But I also wonder if it was always planned to put out a rated R version of that, and that was the compromise, where they're like, make whatever you want, but there's going to be two versions. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, that might have happened.
Makes sense. Birds of Prey is rated R for strong violence and language throughout, and some sexual and drug material.
Well, I would expect both of those things in a movie like that. Mm-hmm.
There you go. And some Maxi Zeus pixelation.
Well, yeah, that would get you. Well, especially if it wasn't pixelated, that would absolutely get you rated R.
Yeah. Oh, Maxi Zeus.
Hey, Dan, I have a question for you.
Hey, I'm Dan.
Who is your definitive Harley Quinn? Or what?
How dare you put me in this position? Who and what
look,
and
you
where?
You signed a contract at the beginning of the show, okay?
When we started the show, in blood, too.
You got to pick somebody every show. Even if it's Batwoman and you just got to pick a Batcave, you got to pick something.
Yeah. By the way, the scar from the area that we pricked our fingers to sign the contract in blood, it won't heal. I don't know what's going on with it. I think it's some sort of magical thing.
Well, you can't take me to court over it because I accounted for that in the fine print.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So definitive Harley Quinn. Is it really? Can you like? It's Arlene Sorkin or Eileen Sorkin.
Yeah.
she created that character along with, Paul Dini and the writers of that show.
This is one of these we've had.
It really is, because we're, like you kind of said earlier with the new Harley Quinn show, we're just now getting to the point where people are starting to depart and start doing their own things with that character, because the version of that character that came out of the animated series has been so imitated in every other version that has come from it. Because we had her in the first Arkham Asylum was her final performance, right? Eileen Sorkin, I believe.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was her final performance as Harley Quinn, and then it was handed on to the voice actress Tara Strong, who did like Timmy Turner and stuff like that, and Fairly Odd Parents, and she did a great job with it, but it was not exactly that same thing. But she was also kind of doing it in imitation of.
Yeah, I mean, she's playing the same character, but it's Tara Strong.
What Eileen
it's gonna sound a little cuter.
Yeah.
She just can't help herself. That's what it's gonna sound like, and I like her too. I got no problem with that. She's probably the next best voice actress to take that role.
Yeah.
And nobody loves Tara Strong more than me, because she created one of my favorite characters of all time in Bubbles.
Bubbles.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, you like, there's some great DNA in there as far as like voice acting continuing on, but like if we're talking definitive versions, it's gonna be the animated series Harley Quinn.
Yeah. And I just don't think we've ever really improved on it. In not just talking voice acting, but just what that character is. I prefer a Harley Quinn who's not totally deranged, and who's obviously okay with the stuff Joker is doing and willing to do some crazy things herself, but is conflicted before she's just completely out to lunch. We're like, obviously she's got a psychosis, but she's not a sadistic nut job. Because I don't want Harley Quinn to just be female Joker, and I think a lot of the reason that she got as popular as she was is because she, on paper, looks like a knockoff of a pre-existing character, like, whatever girl. You got Batgirl, you got Supergirl. This is not Joker girl. She goes and hangs out with the Joker, but she's been hoodwinked and seduced into doing that, and does have her own personality, and she's not just chick Joker.
She's female Bob.
That's exactly right. Yeah, but like you wouldn't want to watch a TV show or a movie all about Bob.
Yeah,
although I do want to make that. I want to make What About Bob, but it's not a remake of What About Bob. It's about Bob the Goon. What About Bob the Goon?
I'd watch it.
Okay, I actually kind of want to make that now. But
yeah,
I
get Richard Dreyfuss back, but in a completely different role. Obviously, not saying What About Bob, but it still has Richard Dreyfuss.
That would be great. He's playing Bob's dad, and
there you go. Oh, that's so perfect.
Yeah. Oh man, it writes itself. Really, it does. People don't think there's much to that character, but I did a commentary that was just 2 hours talking about Bob the Goon, and there's enough there. You can make that movie. But yeah, Harley Quinn should not be the Joker, and it's silly whenever we've attempted to sort of kind of do that. It doesn't happen a lot, but it made people angry when you had that line from Waller toward the beginning of Suicide Squad, where it's like, she's even crazier than the Joker. I'm like, okay, well then it's not interesting anymore. It's not Harley Quinn. She's not supposed to be crazier than the Joker. What makes her interesting is not that she's crazy, not that kind of crazy. But like it's the contradiction of being a psychologist but having a psychosis she doesn't understand. That's what makes her interesting. I also, I'm okay with a Harley Quinn that is smart enough to go out on her own. That's what's making that like that's working fine in that cartoon show. But I don't want super genius Harley Quinn. That's the other version I can't deal with, and that's kind of what we've turned her into in the comics, where she's like she can do anything. She's good at everything, and she's also just female Deadpool now. And it's like we have a character that got as popular as Deadpool and is also comedic, so naturally she has to do all the things Deadpool does.
Yeah. What do you think about something like the Telltale Batman take on Harley Quinn, where the Joker Harley relationship is flipped on its head?
I like that because it's such an Elseworldsy kind of thing, right? Like, I wouldn't necessarily want to see that done as the new definitive take of Harley Quinn. Like, if we were to totally reboot comics and that's what we did with her, but as a like kind of Earth One take or a Ultimate take, it's great. I mean, that was kind of the point of that, was to do it was sort of an Ultimate sort of thing where it's like we take the core of what these characters are, and then we kind of mold it into something different, and then you can surprise people with it. You can create new characters out of it. So like the initial concept is kind of there, and then we create something brand new with it. So like I would understand if somebody said that was their favorite because she's such a complex character. But dictionary definition of definitive, she's not exactly what Harley Quinn is. So
no, for sure. Just a different shade of that character, which most of the time you don't see the people who are tackling Harley doing something very different with her character like that. I just think it was definitely worth something remarking.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, sorry, I was just going off on a tangent about the kinds of Harley Quinns I don't like. Because I wanted to make sure that got talked about a little bit.
For sure.
But I'm sorry, I ran away with myself, Dan.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. It's like Catwoman. I don't like the meow meow hiss hiss Catwoman. I'm more of a, cat burglar Catwoman.
Yeah. I don't know if Harley Quinn is one of those characters like Catwoman and like Batman where there are a lot of different valid ways to do that character.
Yeah.
I think there's kind of one, like I think you can riff it. I think you can kind of dance around that initial idea and do different things with it. But I think at the end of the day, Harley Quinn is a real specific kind of thing, and I just don't know that it should be messed with too much. And I think at this point, it has been to the point where she's unrecognizable to me. Current Harley Quinn, I'm just not really on board with. It's not that character. We have transformed her into something else. And, in comics, and maybe kind of sort of Margot Robbie, although I don't know what we're going to do with her in her next version. So I guess we'll see what that's like. But I think the Harley Quinn in the new cartoon show, they've done a really good job of doing a modern take, in my opinion, of the classic Harley Quinn. She's got to be dressed like current Harley Quinn, but she starts from that original outfit, and I feel like those guys really get that character and like the animated series. And well, you can tell they like animated series because they put stuff from it everywhere, and like their Two-Face is exactly that character model from animated series. And so they got a lot of reverence for that, but they also recognize how she's evolved or de-evolved or however you want to look at it, and I think they're dancing that really nicely. Again, I'm not going to call that definitive, but they've done a pretty good job not losing what I always thought was cool about that character. And I'm not like a giant Harley Quinn fan or anything, but I didn't turn against her when she got popular like some folks did. I just don't like this current iteration that much.
Sure. Yeah, I agree.
I also got to give an honorable mention to and I brought this up before, but the Harleen Quinzel from Birds of Prey, who's a lot of fun, and that's also a really interesting take.
I just watched. I watched Birds of Prey once a million years ago. It was probably just the first episode, and after talking to you last week or a couple weeks ago, and we were doing Harley Quinn for this, we were like, okay, we're gonna read the comic and then we're gonna watch the episode for the Mad Love.
Yeah.
And I was talking about, oh, maybe I'll watch the Harley Quinn cartoon show, and then you had mentioned Birds of Prey, and I was like, and you're like, maybe watch an episode of Birds of Prey. I know that's a lot of different things to do, but I watched the second episode of Birds of Prey earlier with who I have deemed the episode Moist Man.
Yes.
The water guy. That after never watching like an episode of that show in probably when did that show come out? Mid 2000s? 02. Gosh. Yeah. Wow. I was laughing pretty hysterically at points, but I like what they're doing with Harley on there. That's a different kind of play for her character as far as like, is it supposed to be post like her being like Harley Quinn with Joker or like doing crime, or is she still like underground? Because she seems to be still pining for the Joker in that show. but they're in New Gotham, and I don't quite know the whole story around all that
well, you
stuff.
should have watched the pilot again. Basically,
well, they had a recap, but I just didn't quite 100% get it.
Basically the same thing. Well, New Gotham is just Gotham, but it's post No Man's Land, so when they rebuilt it, they called it New Gotham.
Okay.
It is really cool that No Man's Land is built into that. But yeah, so Harley Quinn has the same thing that Helena has with Batman, where Batman ran off after Barbara Gordon got shot by the Joker, and Joker also ran off. So Joker is gone. I don't think he got killed. I forget now, but he's gone, and that leaves a crime void, and she takes over. So she's basically trying to fill the void that the Joker left, while pretending to be an above board public servant as a psychiatrist. And
Gotcha.
it's fun to get to see a Harley Quinn that's actually practicing psychiatry, but is just absolutely mad. And that version, I actually don't mind being completely crazy out to lunch, just because that show is so over the top in its way anyway. And I get to kind of have my cake and eat it too. She basically gets to be I don't know. She's a psychiatrist who is also the Joker. It's almost also like a cool take on the Joker. It's almost like if you did a female version of the Joker, but we just took it from Harley Quinn in the first place. And it's also just a really interesting point in history, because it's only a few years after the animated series was over, and Harley Quinn is not the big, giant, super popular character yet. And so that was like, they looked at that as this kind of smaller character that nobody's going to mind, if we use, and
if they tool around with it.
And they didn't expect it to be a big deal to anybody. And you wouldn't do that now. Like, if you had Harley Quinn as your big bad for the first season, that's a big deal.
Yeah. And I was getting some strong Smallville feelings from that show.
I mean, it's the same producers. A lot
and it's the same era. It's just such a blast from the past.
Yeah, there was kind of no real reason it couldn't have been in the same continuity. Like, they could have eventually crossed them over and said that they just existed in the same world. There's really no
for sure. Yeah, nothing's stopping it.
Except it's kind of weird that all of Batman's history has happened before Clark Kent grows up. But there's that, and there's even a cute, like, offhanded reference to Smallville in the pilot where Helena mentions crazy stuff happening with meteor showers. And it's really hard to look at that and not be like, okay, well, it sure sounds like it's not the same continuity, but it totally could have been.
Yeah. Anyway, check that out. Interesting. Moist Man, my new favorite villain.
But yeah, he's just a crypto freak, right?
It really is. Yeah.
And they had to make that show another Freak of the Week show. It's really irritating. One of the big goofy conceit for that show, Dan, was that the way metahumans work is that no two of them have exactly the same power. And that just sounds ridiculous.
It sounds like they're making crypto freaks.
Yeah, so that they can have a different one every time. But, like, if you had metahumans for a long time, you would eventually repeat powers. Like, nature doesn't work that way. Every metahuman has a different power. And yet there's a lineage thing with Black Canary, and they both have the canary cry, but one of them has, I think, other powers too, and so that's weird. And Catwoman is a metahuman in that. Catwoman had superpowers and passed them on
because
to
the main character is a partial metahuman. Yeah.
And see, Helena is based on Earth 2 Huntress. So I was mentioning that earlier, because you said you didn't know about Earth 2 Huntress, but she is Batman and Catwoman's daughter. That's the original Huntress.
Oh,
that's where she comes from, and that
makes sense.
And that's why they went to that. I always thought that was actually kind of a stroke of genius that they went back to the pre-crisis Huntress and made a TV show out of it.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, it's fun that they mined that. I think the main reason they did it was so that it could be more of a Batman-esque show, where it's like, well, we can say Batman a lot more often and make it seem more related to Batman if she's Bruce Wayne's daughter, as opposed to the daughter of a crime boss.
True. I gotta watch more of that at some point, and we try not to some of it was unintentionally hilarious to me.
There is a lot of unintentional comedy in that, and it does not hold up great. If anybody goes back to that now without having grown up with it, they're likely to wonder what I saw in that show. But
it's from the era of Buffy. It has shades of Buffy in it on top of like all those things. So it's like I get it. I completely get it.
Yeah, it and Slow. Yeah, but that holds up better because
sure
it was a little bit more sophisticated in its characterizations, but I still think Helen is a great character, and she is my favorite version of the Huntress, which is crazy. It was a failed 13 episode TV show that nobody else liked, but if let me know when you finish it because I would love to talk about that on the show.
Sure, we'll do a Birds of Prey retrospective. We could. All I know is Moist Man. Anytime he reformed, he had a slight sheen, like they sprayed him just before they started filming. He was just wet, everybody, and they paid attention to that detail, and it made me chuckle every single time I saw that he just had a little bit of moisture on his brow. It's because he was just a puddle of water.
Did it remind you of Moist from Dr. Horrible?
Oh gosh, it has been so long since I've seen that. I was talking to Liz about that the other day. I got to watch that one again at some point. Love me some Dr. Horrible sing-along blog.
Oh, Stephen Everest also liked Birds of Prey. Okay, well, then there's a couple of us.
Yeah, there's two of you.
Yeah, well, my wife and I love that show together. And Sarah hates Smallville, but she loved Birds of Prey. I think the time to do that show would be for a Barbara Gordon Batgirl show.
Yeah, I could see that.
On Atmosphere. Or a Huntress show. That would be cool, too. It would also be fun to talk about Huntress.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with her in regards to Batman and all that stuff outside of seeing like 2 episodes of Birds of Prey in the last 15 years.
Yeah. I'd make you do more homework.
Yeah.
You have to read 1 or 2 other
Those
things.
are 43-minute episodes per. No, it'll be fine. At some point when I get done with them, we can chat about it, or we can just keep pecking away at it every single time. Each episode there will be a Birds of Prey update, and we'll just talk about what I watched.
Yeah, and I won't go back and rewatch it because I've seen that so much. I just know it really well.
There you go. You know what I'm saying when I'm talking about Moist Man.
Oh yes, I certainly do. Yep.
Yeah, that guy who's moist.
So, hey, Dan, we're going to go on now to our review for this week. And Dan and I are going to do something a little bit different this time. We're going to compare and contrast both versions of Mad Love. We watched the episode from Batman, the animated series, or the New Batman Adventures, so kind of the season 4 stuff. And it's actually the last episode of that show.
Oh, wow.
Or at least it's the last one in the order they have on DC Universe, but I'm pretty sure it was the last one they made. It is, as far as I'm aware, and I don't know the show as well as some other folks do, so let me know in the comments if I'm wrong, if anybody knows, but I believe it's the only show that was ever adapted from a Batman Adventures comic. So this is a thing that Paul Dini and Bruce Timm did in the comics years earlier, and they straight up adapted it into a TV show. So it's in the same style and set in that continuity in a comic special, a 64-page comic special, and then a few years later they adapt it for this show. So we also read the comic special. And Dan, which did you do first? Did you read the book first, or did you watch the show first?
I read the book and then watched the show.
And I did it in reverse, although I had.
So you watched the show.
Although I have seen these both before.
Yeah.
So I was familiar with this, but it's been a long time. There's some stuff in it that I didn't remember. So what did you? So how did you feel before we really dive into this? Well, let's set up Mad Love for a minute, just in case there's anybody watching that doesn't know what this is. Mad Love is the origin of Harley Quinn, and it's it gives the origin, but the whole story isn't just the origin. It's a story in which Harley Quinn kind of attempts to prove to the Joker that she's willing, or that she's capable of executing one of his plans to try to get on his good side. This is not the Harley Quinn finally tries to leave the Joker story. It's where she more or less comes to realize that he does not appreciate her the way that she thinks he does, and then by the end she doesn't seem to have really learned anything. That's kind of the story. And this is a much beloved Harley Quinn story. It has always been considered kind of the definitive Harley Quinn story. I don't know if at this point people still feel that way, because there's of course been lots of Harley Quinn stuff at this point, but this is kind of the big classic Harley Quinn story that's where she's kind of the central protagonist. There's of course Harley and Ivy, and there's there's a Gotham City Sirens, and there's other stuff where she is a dual protagonist or protagonist with other characters in an ensemble cast. But this is kind of the big initial kind of iconic Harley Quinn story. So Dan, what was the experience like reading this first and then watching it adapted?
It was, they're so close. I feel like it's almost like the comic is a storyboard for, it pretty much is jumping off point for the episode. Yeah. Well, and when I was reading it, because I read the comic first, I was almost hearing Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy and Eileen Sorkin, and there was a point where she was like, no, and I kind of heard an echo, and then I watched the episode and I was like, I've seen this episode. I completely forgot that I had seen it long ago. It's been a long time since I've rewatched it, but I can see why it was echoing in my head because I had seen it so long ago. But man, the way Bruce Timm, his drawing style is just so perfect for comic books. I feel like the comic had a little bit more of an edge to it.
Yeah.
It definitely leaning more into the adult side of it. Whether it was in the violence or Harley's a little bit sexier in her nightgown and stuff. And I know Bruce Timm likes drawing the female figure.
Yes, he does. Isn't it kind of And then you watch Batman Harley Quinn, and it's like, oh, this is what he always wanted to make. Well, that's kind of sad.
Yeah.
But isn't it kind of impressive how much of the more risque stuff that they get away with in that episode?
Yeah,
because there's stuff that you would not that's in this book that you would not expect them to have been able to translate to screen. And the famous one is, "Don't you want to rev up your Harley?"
Oh yeah,
which is a great line.
That's when I realized that's when I realized that I had seen that episode when I was a kid. Because I remember that line, and the rev up the Harley, the sexual stuff is a little bit more overboard. The violence, he hits her off the table and is abusing her throughout the episode. But yeah, you get that shot. Again, this it's pretty much a straight up storyboard. You get the in between the legs shot in the actual episode. You don't see the silhouette of her body through the nightgown, but you do see just her legs and Joker standing over there. It's very what's it called, The Graduate, but really I like it. I like it a lot. I like seeing Bruce Timm's style in a comic book because I've never really read any other ones that he's drawn, and I quite like the style of it.
Yeah, well, and it's a treat to look at because it feels like you said, and this goes without saying, but I think it bears repeating, that even before you see it adapted, it feels like you're getting to look at what their storyboards probably look like, except polished. So it's all you're really looking at is the second to last step of their making a TV show, right? They're Bruce Timm and everybody that worked on that show, especially the animators, are going to be even more adept at translating their ideas to a comic book and making it a cinematic feeling experience, because they make cinema in animation and they have to do this step. They have to make the storyboards in panels before they put it on screen. And so it really does feel a lot like you're watching an actual episode, especially when they have this much room to play with. Because, again, this is 64 pages, and so this was really ripe for adaptation. Anything else they made, you'd have to stretch a little bit. Because a 22-page comic does not necessarily translate to 22 minutes of
in action,
of video. And you said this feels like a straight direct adaptation. There are a couple of scenes in this that are not in the episode. And the first one, the main one that comes to mind, is the scene with Batman and Alfred in the Batcave, which is a fun scene, but is fully cuttable. The biggest stuff, although there is one major thing it's missing, and it's not even full scenes. There are a couple scenes that are cut down a little bit, and you miss a little bit of Harley and Quinzel's initial motivation. I think the comic ends up being better than the cartoon episode, mostly because you don't realize. Well, I say that scene in the Batcave isn't necessary. Actually, it kind of is, right? These guys plot so tightly; it's hard to cut out anything. but they kind of had to. So so I don't know. I guess 64 pages. I said it was ripe for making a 22-minute episode. It's a little long. It's a little too long.
Yeah, you miss some of that internalization that like you don't, like you said, Harley's motivation, like her seeing her life with the Joker and what she wants, and we don't quite get that all visualized like it is in the comic.
That's true. You don't see her her thought balloon imagining what her life would be with the Joker. Although I imagine some of that is because that actually might have been a little bit too much to put on screen.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, I wouldn't know how you would adapt that either. That was just afterwards when I was kind of comparing and contrasting what was in the episode and what wasn't. That was one of the things that came to mind.
I'm not seeing it right away. I forget where that was. But,
yeah, I don't know where it is either.
But yeah, but the big thing motivation-wise, so Batman mentions in the Batcave to Alfred that Harley Quinn was never an angel, and what he's referring to is that this version of Harley Quinn, and like I'm still with you, this is the definitive version. The one thing that we sometimes add to Harley Quinn that I like a little bit better than this is when she is actually a really good psychiatrist. What this does is, but it's really interesting in this context. What this Harley Quinn does is she kind of sleeps her way through med school. And maybe that you also couldn't have gotten in a cartoon episode, but there's not any replacement for it. There's not anything that makes it clear enough just how she's manipulating people when she is trying to work her way to the top. She wants to be a pop psychologist, we find out in this. She wants to write books and like tell-all books and get famous, but she doesn't want to do the intellectual legwork to get there. So she writes a thesis and she gets a D- on it, and then she takes it to the professor, and then she seduces the professor and she gets an A+. Yeah. And so in the cartoon episode, we don't get any of that. The only thing we're told is we do get this scene where she says to this doctor that's taking her around Arkham Asylum that she is she's wanting to talk to all these crazy people in the asylum to get famous, and so that we know. But that's it. I think the comic goes a lot farther to get the sense that, oh, she actually is trying to really cut corners. She shouldn't have even been able to get this far, and we don't get that in the episode. We don't realize that she slacked her way through school, and I think that's really important.
Yeah. It just seems like little things that they had to cut for time. Yes, probably and content to a certain degree, but
that's the one big thing that's missing, because there's a really interesting thematic parallel that I picked up watching or reading this that I didn't with the episode. And again, I watched the episode first, and then I read this, and there was a whole other layer to it that I had never thought of before, which is Harley Quinn, or Harley Quinzel before she becomes Harley Quinn, is, again, manipulating people and making them think that she's a real psychiatrist and that she's a brilliant psychiatrist, and she's taking advantage of them. And Joker does exactly that same thing to her. So the irony with Harley Quinn is that in order to get what he wants from Harley Quinn, he's doing what she did in order to get ahead and get to him in the first place. And I had never thought of that before, and I had to go back and read this before I picked up on that.
And you kind of get that visually with the whole swap around where she's psychoanalyzing him, and then it flips around and he's like sitting in the chair, she's laying on the couch, and you get that straight up.
It's a great moment
in here and like in the animated episode.
One of my favorite things about this book is that the Joker basically comes right out at the end to Harley Quinn and says the same thing I'm saying to people all the time, that jokes are not funny if you have to explain them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the whole breaking point with them. When she actually does fulfill his plan, he's like, well, I figured it out. The piranhas, if you put them in upside down, then it's a smile, not a frown. He's like, well, it's not funny if you have to explain it. And so he gets upset.
And then he gets upset with him.
Yeah. No, really good. Joker and Harley in this episode / comic, I think they're both really well done.
Which iteration, because I mean, I'm talking up the comic hard as being the better version, but which iteration did you find yourself enjoying more?
I liked the comic because I mean, I just appreciate the artwork and being able to just kind of stare at it a little bit longer than in the animated context, but also just getting you get more internalization with Harley, and get more of her reasoning as to why she's doing this, gosh, that all looks so colorful and gorgeous. I like that artwork a lot.
Yeah, it's
And they're able to
exaggerated in a way that you can't do that as much in the cartoon show.
Yeah, it's way more stylized than they usually would, with the different colors and the backgrounds. But yeah, so I would definitely say I probably the animated episode just seemed like it just seemed like an adaptation of this, and it felt like there was a little bit more that was because it was just straight up the exact same thing. The frames were straight up storyboards, the angling, the artwork, like just the way. Just the angles are straight up the same from the comic book. So, and the dialogue is straight up lifted. So I kind of find that the comic book's a little bit more, there's a little bit more there to kind of latch onto. And I really enjoyed reading it.
I'd have to look into this. I wonder if it is true that was the last episode made. I wonder if they made it and we're trying to get certain things in it past the censors, where it's like, well, if we make Mad Love last, maybe we can get away with more of what's in Mad Love.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it says it's at the end. I just saw it at the end somewhere. The last episode aired of the series, marking the end of an era. Mad Love. Yeah, it was the last one. So yeah, maybe it was the one where it's like, okay, well, this is the one we're pushing the hardest into a kind of less family friendly direction.
They can't fire us, although they were also making other shows and going into production on other things, and so I'm sure they wouldn't have wanted to burn any bridges or whatever. But I don't know. I wonder if that had anything to do with it. But like that episode always felt to me like it was pushing envelopes, and it was a little bit more racy than that series was usually allowed to go. But if I had read this as a kid, there would have been a real novelty to that, where I'm like, oh, this is in that same style, but this is not for kids.
Yeah. Was there more to this series, or like this specific
so this was a special
run?
This was a one shot.
Okay.
And the Batman Adventures went for 20-something, 30-something issues, or maybe it was longer, I forget. And then there was a Batman and Robin Adventures that went for a while too. And you can go back on DC Universe and look at some of that stuff. Some of those are great. There was a Mask of the Phantasm follow-up at one point that's interesting. I went back to that a few years ago. I think there might be a review on the channel. I forget. And I remember not liking it as well as I did when I was a kid, but the art's really good in that. One thing that's really interesting is there's an issue of this series. I think it's like 10 or 11. I started looking at it again last night, and it introduces Superman in that series before Superman was in the animated series, so he's drawn differently. So he's like a different character model, and
weird.
He's bulkier. He doesn't look like, when you look at him and Batman side by side. I'll see if I can pull that up real quick. He doesn't look like he belongs in that universe. It's kind of like the Superman. It's differently stylized in this, but it's a little bit like the Superman from the comics at the time walked into frame with animated series Batman, because he's got the mullet. So he's big and bulky, and he's got the mullet from that time. And then they introduce Lex Luthor in that too. And I mean, it's nothing like it's going to be in that
Maxie Zeus?
Yeah. Superman and Batman versus Maxie Zeus. But so there's Superman. Look, they just don't even look like they live in the same world.
That's funny.
I mean, the eyes certainly, but beyond that, like he looks totally different from what he will in that series. And then but see, they're looking real hard at Fleischer, because they looked really hard at Fleischer in the Batman show.
That's so weird.
The character model is different. Like, isn't that strange? And then what I was going to say is, and this Batman and Superman immediately get along, and that will not be the case later on. But,
as they should.
But look at their Lex. They've got the Lex with the big full beard, because that's what it looks like.
Oh my gosh!
Superman. Yeah, and this is 1993.
Oh wow!
Or like 92. So they went back. So they went to that Lex, and yeah, it's really interesting.
Strange. I have a handful of issues of mullet Superman from the 90s.
Yeah, luckily we never did that with Spider-Man. I'm glad there wasn't mullet Spider-Man.
Mullet Spider-Man.
That's probably
on top of the suit. Oh man, it's like, hey Clark, your mullet's looking as good as and strong as Superman's. Oh yeah, well, I like his mullet.
Did you pick up on there's a most of the dialogue is directly lifted from this.
Yeah.
And first of all, I should say I should ask you this question. Was it kind of surreal going from this back to the cartoon show to see the voice actors translating this in their voice after you had their voice in their head and see what the line readings were?
Yeah, it was weird. I think that's the thing that kind of puts the comic above the actual episode for me, because like reading it and already having their voices in my head was like different. Yeah, it really is. Like hearing Mark Hamill, maybe it's a little bit flatter of a delivery than I would have expected. Or it was really strange.
Although I think everything Kevin Conroy does in that episode is great.
Oh yeah.
Because that is different than I probably would have read it. But I really like how deep and gravelly he is when Harley Quinn walks in and he's just like really understated, and then the deep Batman laugh is haunting and it's fantastic. Because in the comic, like he translates that so well. Because in the comic, it's supposed to feel it's supposed to seem kind of haunting, but you don't actually get to hear his voice. And Kevin Conroy totally knew what to do with that. It's great.
Yeah, he needs to release a thing of him reading the dictionary. Just his voice is so, and then it's just like he does have, like you said, you kind of don't exactly imagine him reading it the same way that he actually does. And the choices he makes are really great. Him and Mark Hamill and Eileen, I think, are all killing it that episode. And I guess it's the end of that series. I wonder if that was one of the last things they actually recorded along with.
Probably so.
Yeah, man, what an episode to go out on, though.
Yeah, and I mean it's beloved, and a lot of people consider it either the best episode of New Batman Adventures, or tied with or right beneath. It's not Perchance to Dream. Which one is it? The Batgirl dream sequence episode. That's the other one everybody loves from that.
Yeah.
Where do you know what I'm talking about? Where
not off the top of my head. I know Perchance to Dream. That's probably one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's my favorite. But I'm talking about of specifically New Batman Adventures.
Oh no.
Where she has a dream, and you don't know the whole thing is a dream till the end, just like with Perchance to Dream, and that's a testament to how good the episode is, because that should kill it, but it doesn't. And Gordon finds out that Barbara Gordon is Batgirl and is angry with Batman for training her because she dies.
Oh, nice.
And she's not in most of the episode. It's her dream, but she's not there. And the whole thing is Gordon going after Batman for the death of Barbara Gordon, and it's great. But anyway, no, you said Kevin Conroy should read the dictionary, and I'm just imagining him like reading the alphabet to children, like A
for Aardvark,
B for Batman.
Yeah.
I also wanted to mention Arlene Sorkin's voice acting in that episode, because she does a thing with it that I would not have thought of just reading the comic. Probably you get to hear two different Harley Quinns, right? Harley Quinn and a Harleen Quinzel. Yeah. And her regular voice is kind of, I imagine, pretty much just Arlene Sorkin's voice, and going back and forth between them is fantastic, and it makes you feel like, I never thought of Harley Quinn as putting on a voice, and I like the idea that it's not just Arlene Sorkin doing that; the character is putting on a voice, and that's. I mean, it's obvious when you think about it, because there's no way she would be that bombastic when she's initially like interviewing the Joker. But to finally hear it and to get that contrast, it's wonderful, and it's kind of cool that she is able to fake out Batman the way she does when she pretends like she's going like she's trying to go straight and she's trying to get him to go after the Joker. Like, I buy that everybody buys that because she's so sincere about it. And before this, you wouldn't have known that she had that ability. But again, the reason she can do that is because she was a master manipulator. That's how she got herself through college.
Yeah.
And so she still has that in her. I mean, that's really cool.
Yeah, her taking off the mask and seeming very straightforward about that was, I think, the clincher on that scene. I feel like I don't know if there's too much, because in the cartoon, I almost feel like in the comic, I felt like, like almost I was duped where she was turning herself in. In the cartoon, she just got back with the Joker or something like that, and then it cuts into her, going to turn him in.
Yeah,
Unless I would just.
It can't make you trust that. Although I think in the comic it can't quite either. But
yeah, well, in the comic for some reason, unless I just wasn't like paying attention just before it or what, but like I felt like I was like, oh, she's like turning on him. In the cartoon, like it's right after they've been reunited, and it's like, oh, okay, well, she's clearly trying to set him up.
Oh, come on, DC Universe.
Man, yeah, this app is definitely very
page
interesting.
Flip.
It is very strange about
Let me do it.
All that going through and skipping around on here, even like just on the browser, on the app, it's all kind of a little gitchety loading some of the stuff in.
This is iconic.
Oh yeah. Harley Quinn.
But yeah, this is the stuff I just don't think they would have put in that show. And,
yeah.
And not just because like how exactly
it's so many great gags though.
I think they
like
could have
just stare at that,
but it's I don't know. It's maybe too surreal for. I don't know. Maybe they could have done that.
So good
I
though.
Love Batman's head on the on the mantle.
It's one of those things you can just stare at that for so long. There's a lot of little things.
Fire and
yeah.
Well, and I mean you can tell. Okay, these guys worked on Tiny Toons. And
yeah, there's that style in there for sure. The kids,
and that's why you kind of wish they'd done that, because you would have seen the translation to animated get like a Warner Brothers cartoon.
Yeah, do a kids Batman series with kid version of Batman and Joker and Harley, and actually be pretty hilarious.
So yeah, this is where it happens. I don't think it can dupe you in the comic either, because she's there with the Joker. And she looks at the
plan. Yeah.
I like how this is. I mean, I love the visual storytelling here. I don't think we quite do this in the show, where we take the time to look at the fish upside down, and then that pays off later.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so she does that, and then like she's clearly setting them up here.
Yeah,
it's the very next thing that happens. But yeah.
She's just so good with it. It's the taking off the mask. It's like she's bearing all and putting herself out there, and you just want to believe her.
One of the things I love about animated series is the anachronisms that make it impossible to place it in time. We've talked about this a lot, but you've got Batman with a VHS tape, but it's in black and white.
There you go. I have a VHS tape. I'm holding the very same one that he has right there.
Oh yeah, if you put that in, are we going to be duped by Harley Quinn?
Yes.
I have VHS tapes back there, but I can't get to them.
I have a VHS camera right here. This is my grandmother's VHS camcorder.
Is your room set up where just everything you own you can reach?
Well, that's what I'm telling you. I told you I didn't like my room's a mess right now. I just got that the other day, and I actually hooked that up on stream. I had that as like my webcam. I can hook it up to the computer, and I can use it as a webcam source. I could be streaming from my VHS camera right now if I wanted to. Next episode I will.
How many robot Jokers does Joker have?
I was I mean Harley would have had to steal it, so
yeah,
I don't know.
He's got so many robot versions of himself
that has like pre-recorded lines.
Sorry, what?
With pre-recorded lines too, where it's like, no one turns stooly on me and lives, and he's just like, that's the pre-recorded thing he already has.
Okay, that's a really good point. How'd she get that in there?
Maybe she was just recording him yelling at somebody at some point. I mean, it's not unreasonable.
Man,
but...
it's sure a good thing I kept walking around with this talk boy.
Yeah.
Huh? I didn't think of that before. Wow, you start flipping through comics and you start seeing problems. What else do you want to talk about with this, Dan?
I like a difference I would say is like they talk about the him being hung upside down a bit longer here in the comic, because they mention it later in the cartoon. He's like, I almost gave up or I almost would have been screwed because I was hanging upside down and getting woozy. Here they talk about it right off the bat. And then again later. I just thought of that because that was on the screen. But no, I really liked it. I enjoyed it. It felt like after reading it and then watching the cartoon, it just felt like not Cliff Notes version, but like just a straight up angle by angle, frame by frame adaptation of the thing. into like, because just reading it here in the comic book form, it already kind of comes to life with the voices in your head, and the art style by Bruce Timm is so unmistakably the animated series. It just kind of leaps off the page as is. So like I appreciated watching the episode, but the comic was really great, and was just that the distilled version of the episode.
So that's an interesting thing to talk about. How do you feel about something that is that directly adapted? Like, does it feel redundant at that point, where it's like, well, if it already did everything the episode basically did, not just because it's adapting it directly and almost scene for scene. I mean, it is scene for scene, but there's just a couple little things they have to leave out. But also, you got everything you wanted even without the voice acting. Does that need to exist? Or are you glad it does exist for people who are just never going to go look at this?
It's always cool to see something like adapted by, like I was reading this, you hear Hamill's voice and Harley's voice and Batman's voice. So it is cool to see those actors take their stab at it and see what their voice does sound like put to it. It is kind of that thing. Like I'm glad that it's produced and exists. But just in the exercise of reading the comic and then watching the episode right after, it's a little redundant. But I wouldn't say ultimately it's redundant. I would just say I would do one or the other next time. I would either read the comic book again or I would watch the episode again.
Yeah, it doesn't have that year one problem where did you see the Batman Year One animated movie? Yeah. The problem that had was it directly adapted the comic exactly, but it didn't become a movie. It just was awkward because it became a comic directed to a different medium, and it needed to change some things to work in that medium. This doesn't have that problem because it reads like storyboards for the medium it's going to eventually be adapted to anyway. And so they are using their own mediums again, like I talked about with the Harley Quinn series, to their furthest extent. They understand the medium they're working in. This is a great comic book. That is a great cartoon episode. But they're also because of the way they're put together in panel layouts and shot composition and stuff, they feel much closer to the same medium than the way Frank Miller writes and draws a comic book and then attempting to put that on a screen. It's a very different process. Should have been a very different process.
I agree. Absolutely.
Okay, anything else we want to deal with that before we get to our final segment, sir?
Not if there's anything that you. I think I'm done on my talking on Mad Love. I'm in Mad Love with Mad Love. I think it's pretty good. Oh, look, there's Cat.
I just put myself on screen. Sorry, one sec.
I like it.
Second. Now we're the comic vault.
Welcome to the
everywhere.
Comic Book Vault. Yeah. I'm Dan. Oh.
Sorry, I'm having issues with OBS today.
Wanted to take over the new show. It's the Captain Logan show. It's the Comic Book Vault show.
You want to do that some more?
Yeah, Comic Book Vault with Dan and Cap here on Geek Evolution.
And heck, we can just go to After Dark now.
All right. Well, get the censor button ready because I'm about to let loose.
No, you're not.
It's After Dark.
Now it's Batmosphere. Well, hey, thanks for doing that exercise. That was really fun.
Yeah. Welcome to the comic. I just gonna always have that ready just in case you accidentally hit that button next time. I'll be ready anytime. Welcome to the Comic Book Vault. It's diners, drive-ins, and Batmans.
Drive-ins?
I don't know.
Well, let's go ahead now and do a little bit of Bat Chat. I saw some comments earlier, people asking us various Batman things that we didn't have a chance to get to because we needed to do our segments. But if you want to write those again, feel free to do that. And we will start with a super chat from T-Edge1, $2 super chat. Is Batman Beyond Return of the Joker Harley a good Harley? Well, it's the same Harley from the animated series, just gotten elderly.
I don't remember her off the top of my head. It's been a while since I've watched Return of the Joker, though.
Yeah, it's been a little while for me, too. But yeah, she shows up at the end of that, and she still has hyenas, I think, if memory serves.
Just elderly hyenas.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it turns out that that she didn't die, and she's still around. And but yeah, I can't remember. I don't remember everything with that. I can't really speak to that right now. It's been too long since I've watched that. Yeah. But, I mean,
good movie.
She is the same Harley.
Mr. J.
So while we're waiting for questions, I'm going to post one to you, Dan. And
hey, I'm Dan.
My Bat Chat question for today is, Will Harley Quinn, now that we have adapted her in so many different places and she's got her own show and she's about to get her own movie, we're finally paying off the kind of mean baitness of her over the last decade, just like we did with Deadpool. How long does she stay mega popular, or does that eventually fade away now that we're finally doing some of that stuff?
Oh gosh, I don't know. It depends on the quality of the products. Like that's kind of the thing with everything. 'Cause, yeah, we are getting into a point. Look, I had me pegged as the last person who would really care to see a Harley Quinn cartoon series come around. I had zero interest. I had seen the trailer for it. It looked like a Harley Quinn cartoon show. I didn't, just along with like a lot of the Batman things, like it did not a lot really kind of makes me go, ooh, I'm going to check that out. I really want to check that out. I will eventually check it out, but it's whether or not I lock into it is kind of the question. And the cartoon series has really brought me around of like, yeah, I love this a lot. I love the vibe of it. I'm excited to see more. I'm anticipating more. So it really kind of depends. I like Margot Robbie well enough. When it comes to Suicide Squad, she's kind of more so one of the highlights for me.
That's true. Yeah, for me too.
So it seems like if you pair her with some good, characters, and put her in an interesting scenario, it can play out really well. So I'm curious to see how Birds of Prey goes. But as far as like the kind of saturating Harley and all that stuff, I don't know. I mean, it's nice that they're not just focusing on Joker. I feel like they kind of just go Joker crazy with everything, and he's kind of for a lot of the big things, he's the highlight, or what they're always trying to focus on as far as like popularity goes. So I don't know. How long does the Harley bubble last? I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
I asked this question because it's kind of, again, the same thing as you had with Deadpool, where that was a super meme baity thing, and you had all these people who professed to be fans of a thing that I think a lot of them never really looked at. Like I think a lot of people that loved Deadpool couldn't really tell you much about Deadpool, except that
it's like the attitude of the
just
thing.
Funny, yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just the attitude. It's a cartoon character in the strictest sense, where it's not even like you watched a cartoon show with this character. It's like they just show up in like newspaper strips or something, right? And with and I think Harley Quinn has kind of had the same thing, not for exactly the same reasons as Deadpool. I think a lot of people look at her, and I don't know how much of this is still happening. I think especially for a while, you had a lot of girls almost looking at Harley Quinn like a romance, like a role model, which always bugged me. And I'm like, and I guess that is similar to Deadpool, where it's like, you guys love this character and want to be this character, and you're not looking at like the horrifying parts of this character. Like, it's fun to laugh with that character and to enjoy the perversion of what they're doing, but obviously you don't want to take that too far. And I think some people sometimes glorify the Harley Quinn Joker relationship, and that one of the reasons that character got that popular was because some people could kind of see themselves in that abusive relationship, and maybe even realize that that's happening to them, and think that because Harley's having a good time, that makes it okay, and that's not good. Like that's scary. And like, I hope that's not happening as much as it sometimes felt to me like it was. And so I think you're right about the quality of it. It's like, because before there just wasn't, besides animated series and stuff, there just wasn't a lot of stuff for those people to go to, and they were just looking at like the image of the character, right? And so then now there's a thing that's being sold directly to them, and if they like it, then now they're fans of that version, and if they don't like it, maybe they don't care about Harley Quinn anymore. And maybe if they're liking that for the wrong reasons, that's okay. I don't know. But I'm with you. Like I guess I was just wondering like how much we thought good or bad Harley Quinn stuff would affect that. Like people that were obsessed with a thing that they didn't even really understand, and then now they've got stuff. I don't know.
Oh, I feel like if it felt like
Suicide Squad had. Well, I don't think Suicide Squad has killed the love for that character, but I don't know if it's as like massively popular with the kids, with the teens, as it seemed to be just before that movie. So I don't know, maybe that already has affected it, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I feel like if this Harley Quinn show had come out and it did feel like one of those things where it was really trying too hard to be this thing, like if it hadn't been for the fact that it seems like they're doing exactly what they want to do with it, and it doesn't seem to have this like creative directive being forced upon it. It doesn't feel like they're trying to like capitalize and squeeze, blood from the stone sort of deal. It seems to be like a natural progression of, they had this idea for a cartoon show. They had a great, set of showrunners for it, or the people who are actually running it.
That might not be where it started from. It might have started from Harley Quinn is really popular, but then they gave it to the right people, and now it doesn't have that problem.
It really kind of comes down to that thing, because it doesn't feel like a cash grab, but
it doesn't feel pandery to me at all.
Yeah. So if they keep on that line of it, where they're actually kind of keeping the right creative forces behind a thing, and not trying, because I feel like DC's foul up to this point has been them just being too, hands in the pot with some things. At some points their detriment has come from them being too hands off. So I think they're kind of coming into a good balance right now, hopefully.
Yeah, but you bring up an interesting point with the fact that is on DC Universe, because like the people that we're talking about, like the mainstream audiences that got in love with a character that they maybe didn't really experience much, are not necessarily going to subscribe to that network. Yeah,
I feel like it's probably not going to be watched by.
That crowd is going to look at it for $8 a month, right?
Yeah. I wouldn't have watched it. The only reason I came around to it was because I re-signed back up to DC Universe so I could read some of the comics that we were doing for the show, and it just happened that Harley show just started up right around the right time, so I was able to catch it, and I really fell in love with it. Definitely be recommending it to peeps who I talk to about it, because it was a surprise for me. I like a good surprise, and I like there being content worth paying for on a thing that I'm that I'm signed up for. Things that excite me to watch the next episode, or it's like, oh, this new series that I like.
Yeah, and it reminds you of other adult cartoon shows, but there's nothing else exactly like it on right now. Yeah. Which is really nice. We're finally getting a little bit of variety in geeky TV right now. I feel like there was nothing exactly like Watchmen. Of course, that was a miniseries and it's done now, and I mean, it will probably get another season eventually, but they don't even know what they're doing with that yet. It's a lot more like sequels to movies or prequels, wherever they go with that. And then like, Mandalorian, there's nothing exactly like that on TV now. Like, I feel like I'm finally seeing a little variety. You have to be looking at streaming services made by big giant corporations in order to look at any of that stuff, but I don't know, that's positive to me. Real quick, Mr. Roboto had a $2 super chat that I missed from earlier that says Cap and Dan should order DC comic chess pieces. That was when we were looking at the holiday guide. Some of those are really cool. I like have you looked at those, the like mail order thing where like every month you get one and then you can amass the entire set? I have the Lex Luthor one. I've never bought any other ones, but
thank you.
But bless you. But yeah, those are great.
I didn't hear it.
It would be nice. It would be nice if I felt like I could afford to do that, and I would have to give up some of their collection probably to do that. But no, those are cool.
Sounds neat. I haven't played chess in so long. Got to set up a chessboard at some point.
Okay, let's look at some of the comments looking at what we were just talking about.
Woo!
Harley Quinn is entertaining, says Mr. Roboto.
Oh yeah, Harley Quinn is entertaining. That's Mr. Roboto's voice, you forgot.
Mr. Roboto also says, people want her to be a female Joker, but for younger girls, it's out the cosplayers. I don't know what that means.
Hold on, I have a good line. Let's see here.
It's out the cosplayers.
Maybe Harley's father was very stern and her mother left or died.
Robot has spoken.
Yeah, I'm sure Harley's parentage has been dealt with in various things, but I've not read a lot of things that deal with that. So I don't know what the definitive background for Harley Quinn is as far as like how she was raised. I read that in 52 and didn't like it because again she was a super genius.
Yeah. Maybe her parents were junk traders who sold her for scrap.
Yes, and then it turned out that they were nobody because they chose to be nobody.
Dun, dun,
They chose
dun, dun,
to
dun.
be.
Her parents were Clock King and Clock Queen.
Oh man, plot twist!
She's Princess Clock. I'd watch that.
Clock.
Yeah.
Dan, I'm not seeing a bunch more questions. We are right up to about 2 hours, so we should probably bid everybody farewell here in just a minute. Do you have anything you'd like to bring up for the Bat Chat, Dan?
No, I've been enjoying doing this. It's always fun talking Batman. Oh, Malik, we talked about Telltale Harley a little bit earlier. No, it's fun kind of focusing on the different characters in the universe and kind of it's like these last couple weeks I feel like I've learned about Harley inside and out just because Mad Love is kind of that first pilot episode of the Harley cartoon is kind of riffing on Mad Love just a little bit and it's kind of interesting going through these different things that are kind of not deconstructing, but examining the Harley Joker relationship. So it's I've always felt like a fake Batman fan where I haven't read a lot of the kind of essential things for some characters, and it's nice kind of deep diving into characters individually and reading comics and also watching some of the shows again. And it's just a nice kind of deep diving a little bit more.
Giving Dan an education.
Yeah, Bat-education. Because I always feel like such a fake Batman fan because I'm so on the movies and the video game side.
Yeah.
And I need to be more on the comic side because there's so many good ones out there, and I've been enjoying.
What's nice is in doing this, it will enhance some of that stuff for you also. Because when you go back to that stuff, you're going to notice things you never noticed before because now you know the comic side and some of the stuff that was inspiring those things.
For sure. So something that I didn't bring up last week when we were reading the Joker comic book line. I can't remember the Lovers and Madmen.
Lovers and Madmen. Yeah.
There's a company name in the thing called Berlanti, and all it made me think of was Greg Berlanti.
Yeah.
But that was back during the mid 2000s. Was that before he was doing? Although that was before he was doing the DC shows.
It was before he was doing the DC shows, but he might have been working in comics at that point.
Yeah, well, I know he was involved. I think he wrote Green Lantern, and that was that time period somewhat. But I was wondering if that was a Greg Berlanti reference. And it's funny seeing those little references in either store names or you got Paulie's Diner or in the animated series for Paul Dini, or is that just in?
You know what? Games. No, Berlanti was not doing comics back then.
Okay. I just thought I wonder if it was a coincidence or a reference. Wasn't sure.
I don't think it was. I think it was just a coincidence. I also wondered about that and didn't think to look it up.
Berlanti.
I'm surprised you remembered that just now.
Yeah. Well, I've thought about it multiple times and I was like, darn it, I meant to bring that up during the actual episode. So airing out my dirty Batmosphere here.
Well, folks, we will see you again in a few weeks for another one. I don't know if we'll be back at the end of next month. Dan's got a big project he's working on at the beginning of January. So I don't know when you're going to be available again, but late next month or early February, hopefully. And Dan, we always do this. We don't have a plan right away yet for the next show. So you want to just workshop it right now? Who would
yes,
you
after
like to
we're
do?
done with the show. One of these times we'll figure it out before we start a show. So we'll come up with a tease that we can
Wouldn't
be like, and next month.
Yeah.
We'll be talking about this. Yeah, it'll probably be the beginning of February. This is when we'll probably be able to realign and do the next episode. But excited.
Yeah, you should pick somebody because we talked about this last time. You still haven't really gotten to pick anybody.
Well, we talked over Harley, and I also mentioned Joker. Like Joker was kind of one that.
That's true, but we partly did those because there were big things coming out with them.
Yeah. Well, hey, we've already done Harley, so
what's happening in February? February, I think, is Birds of Prey, right? But we can pick somebody else in Birds of Prey, maybe.
We'll do Black Mask.
I was gonna say we can do Black Mask. I guess I got nothing on Black Mask, man.
Well, we've already kind of talked about him too. I really feel like he was shafted in those Arkham games.
That's all we had to say about that. Yeah, I mean, I have very little to say about Black Mask, and I don't know what thing we would review with Black Mask, but yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll talk.
He has no definitive comic book arc.
I mean, the only stuff I can think of that's interesting with Black Mask is in No Man's Land, but it's kind of hard to read that stuff by itself. Like,
Yeah. That'd be a long read.
I'm sure there's cool stuff I don't know about, or stuff
Sure.
I don't know about. But yeah, we'll figure something out.
Oh, yeah.
Well, everybody, thanks always for watching. Hope you had a good time. We certainly did, and we will see you again next time in just a few weeks. I was Captain Logan.
And I'm Dan's News.
Later, folks. Bye.
Judo chop. Still chop. Can't see me, but I'm chopping.